off the ship, and that human-to-human transmission may have happened on board since. New this morning, an update from the World Health Organization on the situation on board the MV Hondius.
As of today, 7 individuals of the 147 passengers and crew have been reported ill. Sadly, 3 have died. 1 patient is in intensive care in South Africa, although we understand that this patient is improving, while 2 patients are still on board the ship and are being prepared for medical evacuation to the Netherlands for treatment.
Hantavirus is a rare but serious virus carried mainly by rodents and first identified many years ago in Asia and the Americas. It can cause severe lung and kidney complications in humans. Health authorities are now closely monitoring a new Andes virus cluster linked to the MV Hondius cruise ship. The Andes strain has drawn attention because, unlike most hantaviruses, it may occasionally spread between people through prolonged close contact. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, the overall public risk remains low, and this is not expected to become another COVID-19-style pandemic. However, several confirmed and suspected cases, including reported deaths, are being investigated across multiple countries. Global health agencies are tracing contacts and monitoring the situation carefully. Watch these videos for full details, symptoms, prevention tips, and current updates. Let us continue to pray that the world never experiences another pandemic like COVID-19. Subscribe to our channels and stay informed with verified updates.
Netherlands for treatment.
Crystal Gamansing joins us now live. Crystal, most of the passengers are still on board this ship. How easily could the virus spread to them?
Yeah, this is something that's obviously a concern very much for all of those people who are on board this ship. But what we're hearing from the World Health Organization is that there's no need to panic, that this virus is rarely spread person to person. However, we do know that that can happen. And early indications, based on what we heard from the WHO's Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove, is that they believe the strain of hantavirus that they're dealing with on board this vessel is the Andes strain. That's a strain that has been found and is known to spread person to person. That is most often found in Argentina and in Chile. And we know that where people got onto this boat was in Argentina. And the early working theory from the WHO is that the individuals who got on board this ship, they brought this virus with them, and then it spread to people while they were on board. Now, the fact that it can spread person to person, although that is not common at all, according to several medical officials, is that people shouldn't overly react, that they are taking precautions on board the ship, that there are now medical individuals in PPE on board this cruise ship. They are testing individuals and trying to get a sense of how widespread it is. And they're particularly concerned about those 2 individuals, so they will have the medical evacuation. So this virus is in Canada. There's people who know about this. Often people will talk about hantavirus if they have mice in their home. Officials will tell them, wear a mask so you can't breathe in any of those aerosol droppings that the virus comes from urine or from mouse droppings. But let's hear a little bit more from infectious disease specialist Isaac Bogosh about hantavirus.
Got about a 1 week to sometimes over a 4-week incubation period. And this is one of those viruses that can cause a very, very severe illness, particularly a respiratory illness. And people can get extraordinarily sick, require hospitalization and oxygenation and ventilation support in a hospital and usually in an ICU.
Now, one of the reasons that there is such a concern here, David, is there's no antiviral. There's no obvious treatment, that people who do deteriorate need to go to hospital and they need that specialized care, which is why there's so much attention being given to this particular ship and these individuals who have or may not have symptoms but could develop them.
And Crystal, as you know, those who have died, taken off the ship, those most grievously sick, taken off the ship, but the vast majority of passengers are still on board. What's the cruise line operator saying about them?
Yeah, so the last thing we heard from the cruise line operator was a press statement that was issued yesterday. They say they're working with officials. They are trying to provide, and they are providing passengers with as much information as possible. They acknowledge that this is a very stressful situation. And that is what we heard from one individual. He is a travel blogger from the United States, Jake Rosmarin, and he talked about, just being scared that they just don't have enough information and they want off the ship.
I am currently on board the MV Hondius, and what's happening right now is very real for all of us here. We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home.
So obviously a lot of fear for people on board that ship. Once those two medical evacuations take place, the vessel will make its way to the Canary Islands. It will be received there by Spanish officials. Individuals on board will be tested. They will be able to disembark and then get home to their families. David.
New concerns that the deadly hantavirus outbreak linked to a Dutch cruise ship is spreading further. It's now being detected across several countries via passengers who disembarked from the ship weeks ago, and also in some people who weren't on the vessel at all. Officials from the World Health Organization gave an update on the outbreak. They say there are now more confirmed cases.
So far, 8 cases have been reported, including 3 deaths. 5 of the 8 cases have been confirmed as hantavirus, and the other 3 are suspected. While this is a serious incident, WHO assesses the public health risk as low.
A Dutch flight attendant is emerging as a possible case after showing mild symptoms. And there are reports she was working on a flight and had contact with a woman who later died of the virus. There are also 2 Singapore residents who were on the ship who are isolating and waiting for their tests. Now, the MV Hondius left Cape Verde yesterday and is sailing to Spain's Canary Islands. About 150 passengers and crew are on board. The journey is expected to take 3 or 4 days. Oceanwide Expeditions says no one on this ship right now is showing any symptoms. Authorities in South Africa and Europe are trying to trace contacts of any passengers who previously got off the ship. And we've also received an update from Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand regarding the Canadians that are among the passengers on board that cruise ship that was hit by the deadly hantavirus outbreak. I do want to bring in the CBC's Hilary Johnstone. She's tracking that for us. We know that there were about a half dozen Canadians who were on that ship.
That's right. There were 6 Canadians altogether. 2 of them got off, though, a number of days ago now, back on April 24th. There were a number of passengers that disembarked at that time, including the body of that Dutchman, the first to die, some 30 people in total. We'll come back to the 4 Canadians who are still on board in just a few moments here, but I do want to start with those 2 Canadians who disembarked. We know that they are now back in Canada, and they are currently self-isolating in Ontario. I want to bring you a new statement that was put out just a little while ago by Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister and also Canada's Health Minister. It says this, quote, "We can confirm that 2 Canadians who were on the vessel returned home before the outbreak was first identified, along with 1 Canadian who was not on the vessel, however, was on the same flight and may have come into contact with a symptomatic individual. This individual is not considered a high-risk close contact by the World Health Organization. 2 individuals are in Ontario, 1 is in Quebec. All 3 are asymptomatic and have received guidance to self-isolate, and they are currently monitoring for any symptoms. That is the latest on those 2 Canadians who disembarked. But remember, there are still 4 who are currently on board and are making their way towards the Canary Islands right now. We know that that journey is going to take another 2 or 3 days. But according to Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, there will be Canadian consular officials in the Canary Islands at the port when that cruise ship arrives. Here's more of what we heard from Minister Anita Anand.
We have stood up a strategic response team, which is a whole of government team working on this issue. I have deployed consular officials who are currently en route to Tenerife, and the consular support will be in place when the ship reaches port, which won't be for a few days.
Now, the other bit of information that we have about those 4 Canadians who are still on board is that they are asymptomatic. They don't currently have any symptoms. They also were not believed to have been close contacts with any of the people on board who died or who have been confirmed to have cases. The latest information from the Public Health Agency of Canada, this was released around 5 p.m. Eastern yesterday, said that because they're asymptomatic, they won't be required to do anything in particular when they get home under the Quarantine Act. We'll have to see, though, Arthi. It still is possible that they'll be asked to self-isolate, but at this point, we don't have that information.
Okay, now it's interesting too because you mentioned that those Canadians, the 2 who disembarked the vessel a few weeks ago or a few days ago, that they returned to Ontario, and that province's health minister was asked about that and what potential protocols they may face in the province of Ontario.
That's right. Ontario's Health Minister Sylvia Jones speaking just a few moments ago in Toronto, saying that the incubation and monitoring period is about 30 days. She said that right now, the risk to the general public is low. This is something that we've heard from federal officials and from the World Health Organization as well. But she did say that those 2 people in Ontario who had disembarked that cruise ship on April 24th are currently self-isolating. Here's more of what Sylvia Jones had to say.
The federal government has to understand as people return to Canada, to Ontario, we need to make sure that there is a pan-Canadian consistent approach. So we're working actively with our federal partners to ensure that. But again, I will say for these 2 individuals, they have been from day one monitored and assessed on a daily basis.
So as you're hearing there, they're being monitored, they're being assessed, and the province is working with the federal government. We know that the federal government working with their counterparts around the world, including in the Netherlands. And the latest, of course, is that we're waiting for that ship to arrive in the